Welcome to UNCAGED, a show that celebrates thought leadership from today's top business leaders. The program provides a voice to amazing executives from around the globe who are shaping the world of business today and mapping the path to the commerce of tomorrow. Today, we're speaking with Pablo Pizzimbono. Hey, Pablo, how are you?
Hi, how are you, Vance?
I am well, and we will be delving into the world of fintech. Pablo is the co-founder and CEO of Clave, which is a digital lending platform providing users with a wallet to access simple, intuitive, and secure solutions to traditional financial services that include credit, payments, and transfers, as well as providing a gateway to a new age of products based on blockchain technology. So as Web3 starts to take 4 and everything connects into blockchain, companies like Clave are reinventing your financial services. But we'll get into that in a second. And before we get there, Pablo, tell us a little bit about yourself and your career.
Sure. So I'm originally from Argentina. Although I grew up in the United States, my parents came to the US when I was very small. And most of my kind of formation and education has been here, although I did go back and spend some time in Argentina as a teenager. I went to business school, started working on Wall Street, JP Morgan, and later at HSBC. And most of my career has been in emerging markets or focused in emerging markets, primarily in Latin America. And I ran the commercial business for JP Morgan in Mexico and had a great experience there. And then spent, the last 5 years, kind of from 2011 to 2015, running the region, running the Americas on the commercial side of the business. So US, Canada, and all of Latin America for HSBC. And then I left the bank in 2015. Founded a company called Cross Regional, which is the company that created Clave with my other 3 partners.
Well, I love the name Clave, and I know there's a lot of activity in the fintech space. And so I can see Clave being one of the players in that world. Tell us a little bit about what you and your team are working on there.
Sure. So we're really, Clave was started as a solution to a couple of problems that we were facing as lenders. So I left the bank, I created Cross Regional, and we started to look at opportunities to lend initially by acquiring portfolios or working with originators in the region and funding them, and then kind of recycling them into large institutional investors that we kind of covered over the course of our careers. And we ran into a couple of obstacles in doing that. The first was that the way that loans were being originated in Latin America were very archaic. There was a lot of paper, a lot of face-to-face, a lot of people involved. And so it was very slow and not very scalable. The other issue that we found was that most of the lenders and most of the way that loan origination was funded in Latin America was on balance sheet. Most of these companies started with family money or principals money, and then got some bank lines and started, building their book of business and lending. But because emerging markets in Latin America is very volatile, in the down cycles, instead of kind of leaning in and taking advantage of those opportunities to build market share, they were spending their time kind of defending their businesses and defending their balance sheet. And as a result, was very inefficient. And you didn't really get any kind of scalability. So we kind of combined 2 things to start Clave. One was our experience as lenders and our experience in financial markets and financial engineering. And also we created technology to basically originate in a very efficient way. And the combination of those 2 things brings opportunity and credit to many people that wouldn't ordinarily be able to have it. So we created Clave. So Clave is a combination of things. Primarily, it's a technology company. The technology has 2. It's a B2B2C platform. Okay. So we begin by addressing businesses and incorporating and integrating and onboarding credit origination and credit disbursement technology. It's kind of front to back. And then the B2C product is the app itself that allows someone to receive a disbursement off a loan, originate a loan, but also has an account, a prepaid card, transfer payments, and then a blockchain portal. So it's a front to back solution, but it's unique in the sense that it provides solutions to funding and solutions for potentially some companies that already have an ability to originate loans, but just can't do it because they don't have the technology.
Right. And are most of the customers that are using Clave in Latin America or all over? Yeah.
They're in Latin America. So
Okay.
we started in Argentina. Our technology platform is there, and we had some pre-existing business. So we started building in Argentina and developing the technology. And currently we're in Argentina and Colombia, soon to be in Mexico and Peru as well.
That's great. And I mean, I know that this kind of restructuring of loans and debt has been a huge part of the blockchain story. This idea of kind of using these technologies to kind of manage risk in a new way. Tell us a little bit about where you think we are in terms of the utilization of this stuff and I guess perhaps maybe the development.
Yeah. So technology has been mostly applied to the origination or the creation of debt and providing someone the ability to access that debt in a seamless way, either at a point of sale at a retailer or online, as opposed to going to a bank, waiting in a line, or to a lot of people just don't have the relationship with the bank to be able to acquire credit. Right. It's a very long and difficult process for them. It becomes inaccessible. So the technology initially has been rolled out to allow people to just access the credit. Okay. I'd say that's step one. There are some very precise solutions that have been provided in addition to that, primarily around payments. So for many people in Argentina for a long time, it was difficult for them to even access Netflix because they didn't have a card in order to make the Netflix payment. In other cases, they wouldn't be able to carry cash and make payments in different types of points of sale. So technology is really applied there. Now, one of the issues that we have in lending in Latin America is the ability to collect. It's very easy to set up a website and tell everybody, come and borrow money. It's very difficult to do that and collect and do it in a responsible way and do it in a way that creates a long-term value for all the stakeholders and principally for the borrower. So that's very difficult. So what we don't have in Latin America generally is a lot of history and credit metrics and things like that. So right now, in terms of the technology, we've been able to make the connection to people. This next phase is really about acquiring data and being able to mine that data and use that data in an optimal way to be able to make more and better loans to people and to businesses as well. So it's more than just individuals, it's to SMEs as well. Right.
I love that, it'll provide that more robust knowledge that will make it possible for you to deliver on acute SME needs, et cetera, going forward.
Well, the data, so the data is extremely valuable in being able to make loans at more, at more favorable rates to the borrowers, right? Because there is more information in terms of ability to pay, and there's a history, there's a relationship with an individual and a borrower. It's a user or a client for our business. And so with that information, we can then lend at better rates and be able to develop a better and longer term relationship over the lifetime of that client or user. So we'll
come back to the rates discussion when we talk about where things are going in a second, Pablo. Okay. But before we get there, I'd love to just jump back and talk about the pandemic, really. I mean, you founded Clave really at the tail end of 2019. So you were the last of the pre-startups in a way, the pre-pandemic startups. You grew this thing during the pandemic, and here we are coming out of it. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, it was a crazy experience, actually. We launched Clave days before the lockdown. And so we built most of our business, certainly a lot of technology, in a lockdown type environment, both in the US and in Latin America and Argentina, where we have our core development team. And so but so two things. One, it went amazingly well, mostly because most of the people that we were working with day to day in building the technology and building the business were accustomed to working online, and these are tech people, so they were able to navigate that quite well.
Right.
And the other thing is, I mean, I think everyone's realized that in the professional environment, we can actually do quite a lot with Zoom. It's not optimal always, but working in this, I think we've all been surprised at how well that's worked. So we benefited from that as well. More importantly, the pandemic had a large impact, a material impact, in the acceleration of the digitization or the electronification of a lot of services. And that was true in Latin America. It was also true globally. And so you had a lot of companies in the US, for example, that exploded in value and grew tremendously during that time. And that was true in Latin America. So payments, certainly any kind of electronic or digital banking or finance grew significantly. Anything that had to do with deliveries and logistics and things like that were technology based and facilitated that process during the pandemic grew a lot. So there's a lot of focus on that development. So I think what it did, it propelled us. We kind of grew 5 years in the 2 years in terms of development.
That's great. I mean, that's very positive.
Very positive. Very, very positive. And I think, you can just see by the number of companies that have been launched over the past 2 and 3 years and the amount of interest that there is that it's created that kind of environment. So that's very positive for emerging markets in general, because these are by and large very beneficial technologies to people. They bring a lot of value.
Yeah, and I can see how, businesses that really have digital at their core became so much more essential to everyone. And certainly as we build this next business ecosystem, as we move forward, people had the chance to trial stuff during the pandemic and hopefully make it part of their foundation for the next phase. But, with that next phase in mind, we find ourselves here in the latter part of 2022, an interesting financial marketplace, Pablo, as you know, with at least in the US, and I would assume in Latin America as well, we have interest rates that are pushing northward. How does that impact your business, and what are you guys thinking about in the near future?
So first, so we're really focused on a very long term in terms of our business, and so we're really thinking in terms of decades, honestly. I mean, we look at the opportunity that way for sure, and think about our development that way. In the short term, I would say that funding is more scarce, both capital equity for investment as well as funding for loans, and the higher rates and the impact is really a global phenomenon. It's not just the US or G7 countries, it's really emerging markets as well. And so that'll have an impact as we cycle down in emerging markets and in Latin America. And that'll have an impact. It'll flow through to defaults and to performance on the loans that have been originated over the past few years. So what will be interesting to see is how well some strategies fare relative to others. So what kind of lending has been, or what kind of loan origination strategies have been more effective, or what data has been used in certain ways to make defaults, as expected, or loan performance as expected or as projected in the models that were used to kind of build those portfolios. So that'll be interesting to see. There will obviously be some winners and some losers, but by and large, this is an evolutionary process in business that is might slow down a little bit, but it won't stop. So this will create new opportunities, and we'll continue to grow and develop from here.
Yeah, I think that what you're clearly tapping into is a longer term trend. You're building the infrastructure, and certainly this is going to be something that will continue to grow in need and importance as we go forward. Pablo, it's been amazing talking with you. If someone
Thank
wanted
you.
to learn more about Clave, where should they find you?
Clave.com.
Clave.com. Excellent. Well, we've been speaking with Pablo Pizzimbono. Pablo is the co-founder and CEO at Clave, which is a digital lending platform providing users with a wallet to access simple, intuitive, and secure solutions to traditional financial services that include credit, payments, and transfers, as well as providing a gateway to a new age of products based on blockchain technology. We've been speaking to him about the development of the business and how it's really moved forward to offering a very, very powerful solution for small to medium-sized enterprises, as well as others in Latin America. And they'll continue to be expanding that over hopefully the near future, as well as the long term as well.
Correct.
Pablo, thank you so much for being on Uncaged Day, and we look forward to having you back.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers.